For my instructional material selection, I chose the children's picture book entitled The Name Jar by Yang Suk Choi. I chose this book because I felt that the story as a whole did a good job at prompting cultural awareness. This book illustrates the way that one little girl feels about not having an American name. As the story continues, the other children help her feel comfortable and learn about her background and culture at the same time. I also chose the name jar because I feel that it would help the English language learners in my class with their language learning. I think that this text would help them feel comfortable and at ease about learning another language. It would help them see that it is a positive thing to learn English, but it is also still important for them to hold on to their heritage. As far as understanding this book, I think that the pictures and the imagery used would help them even if they're not proficient in English. In the classroom that I imagined while selecting this text, there's a lot of cultural diversity. I feel that this book would be best for a second grade classroom because they are old enough that they could understand the storyline, but still young enough that it would interest them. In this classroom of 25, there would be around 5 to 7 English language learners. There would be 2 from Mexico, 1 from India, and 2 from Korea. Most of them have come to the United States from their native countries in the past year. Some of them still struggle with the cultural and language aspects they are encountering in America. When I was reading this book and thinking about a way to apply a theory, I chose the theory of social constructivism. Vygotsky is the champion of social constructivism, and social constructivism emphasizes the importance of social interaction and cooperative learning in ultimate attainment. I like the part of this theory that emphasizes the individual's ability to make meaning through social interaction, namely collaborative groups and global community efforts. I would use this theory that children need to develop social skills and language through social interaction. In the book, the main character wants to change her name because her peers cannot pronounce it. As time goes by, she relies on and asks her peers and even the teacher to help her pick an American name. As her peers support her socially, she is able to make meaning of American culture, the English language, and also remember her native culture. In the end, her peers make an effort to pronounce her name and validate her culture, which allows her to feel more comfortable in the classroom setting and in America. Using this theory and the book, I would encourage my students to support each other socially. I would talk about how every culture is amazing and we should help those who are new to the country and to the language feel comfortable and accepted. I would also encourage them to think of ways that they could include everyone in the classroom setting, no matter where they are from, what color of skin they have, or what their name sounds like. I think that this would help the English language learners to feel comfortable, and as their peers become more accepting, they will have a desire to learn the language. The first part of this book is talking about a young girl named Yoonhae who comes to America from Korea. At first, she is on the school bus and she feels nervous and scared because her surroundings are different and America is a lot different than Korea. Before she leaves Korea, her grandma gives her a little block that says her name, and her grandma reminds her to never forget her name. On the way to school on the school bus, the kids start teasing her and they ask her what her name is, and she says Yunhai, and some of the kids say Une, Nene, Yoonhae, Yuhae, and they make fun of her because of her Korean name and the fact that they can't pronounce it. So, the first part of this book, I thought that it would be good to be in a classroom where there's a lot of English language learners, because I think that the students would be able to relate to the setting that the story takes place in. The setting is a classroom, a school bus, and her home, and this is where the students in my class would be learning and spending time in real life. At first, Yoonhae feels scared and nervous because of her surroundings and the way that others made her feel. Many of the ELL students will be able to relate to the main character's move to America and many of her uneasy feelings about going to school and making friends. In the book, Yoonhae is nervous about the transition to American life, and she is even more nervous when people make fun of her Korean name. Then, next, the Yoonhae gets to the school, and the teacher has her stand up and asks her her name. And she says, one of the kids and the teacher ask her her name, and she says, I haven't picked one out yet, but I'll let you know next week. And all the kids in the class were whispering, why doesn't she have a name? And she heard someone whisper, maybe she robbed a bank in Korea and needs a new identity. So at this point of the book, the students are still making fun of her and making fun of her culture. And so I thought that this would be appropriate to discuss how students need to be aware of how judging others by their cultural background, such as something even as simple as their name, can be hurtful. I think this text illustrates how to be accepting of those from different backgrounds. One of the things that I liked the most about this book is that the pictures are very descriptive. The pictures and imagery in this text are helpful for students who don't have a complete understanding of English, because the pictures are detailed and descriptive. If an English language learner is struggling with understanding basic English, they could get the gist of the story by me pointing to the pictures and using keywords. So in this picture, mom, Yoonhae, the main character, and as you can see from the picture, they're eating dinner. One of the things that I also liked or chose this story is because the pragmatics in this text are straightforward. There aren't a lot of phrases or idioms or even folk etymologies that would be hard for an English language learner to decipher. It's good that the text is straightforward, because it will help those who are not proficient in English to comprehend more of the text. An example of the pragmatics being straightforward is just that, like on this page, it's just conversation between Yoonhae and her mom just asks her simple questions like, how was school, and did you understand the teacher? Another reason that I thought this book would be effective in teaching English language learners and teaching multicultural awareness is that the language in this book is mostly conversational. Because the girl in the main character in the story is young and she's in elementary school, she's using basic interpersonal communication skills as opposed to more academic language. This could be helpful in a classroom where there are ELLs, because friendly conversation will be the type of conversation that they're more familiar with. So for example, on this page, her classmates are just telling her that they've found names for her to put in her jar and asking her if she likes certain names. After Yunhai and her classmates have acquired many names in her name jar, Yunhai decides that she will look through all the names. And one day, in the classroom, the name jar goes missing. And so all of her peers are trying to help her find it. But she says that she already looked through all the names. When her classmates ask her what conclusion she came to on her new American name, she tells them that she decided to keep her Korean name, which is Yoonhye. She explained to the class that her Korean name meant something in Korean. It meant grace, and that was important to her culture. One of the things that I've learned from this course is the power of peer pressure and how peer pressure is a factor in second language acquisition. In this part of the book, Yoonhye explains her name and her culture to her classmates, and they become very accepting, and her classmates start trying to pronounce her name correctly, and they give her positive feedback and positive reinforcement about her name and her culture. And so after I read this text, I will then teach my students explicitly to be accepting of all people, no matter what their peers are doing, and that peer pressure has an effect on how language learners are going to learn their new language. I think this text does a good job of inviting learners to make meaning because it's in a setting that they can relate to. They are able to see how the implications of others made the main character feel, and through the text and explicit instruction, they will learn that everyone is important and that it is important to respect everyone's unique cultures, even things as simple as someone's name. I want my English language learners to make meaning that their culture and native language are important, as well as learning English. One limitation that I thought of was that this book is about a Korean student, and although I feel that it does a good job of reaching a varied audience, I think that students from other countries like Mexico may not feel like they can relate as well because this book is specific to a Korean student and her culture. But overall, I think that the name jar does a good job of promoting multicultural awareness and helping English language learners to feel comfortable about learning English